Poppy Playtime is generally a cool franchise. Sure, its first chapter was more like a demo, but $5 and NFTs, but after that point, the franchise got a lot better, and they all look really good, except on mobile. They are some better than others, and I should probably wait until chapter 5, but I have some thoughts and I want to make another edited video. This will still have spin-offs included, and due to the video's length, I'm adding ranking every monster as well. Anyway, here's the ranking. And the worst game is... Why does this exist? Its main thing is its building mode, but you have to slog through the basic-ass adventure with the main villain being Discount Harley Sawyer. There's already Project Playtime, which is generally the same game. Why didn't you come up with a unique idea and add the map builder to Project Playtime? Like, what about Poppy Playtime Game, where you play as Huggy, but an adventure game, unlike Project Playtime? Or a bad clicker game because it's on Roblox. You can make whatever you want. Peppa Pig, but Granny is the dumbest idea ever, but it works in Roblox due to the endless pool of bad or mediocre games. FNAF did this and it sucked. It was actually different from their other games and isn't a ripoff. Why is this a thing? At number 5 is Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. Well, Chapter 1 is a cool puzzle horror game with some lore because you have to include it in every mainstream horror game. Huggy Wuggy is a cool character introduced, and I like the bait and switch of the final tape, as it's actually about the main villain, not Huggy Wuggy. I like the paranormal vibe Poppy had before they threw it away for a tiny character that does nothing, but make the game longer. However, for $5, you could buy 5 pieces of gum or 100 sticks of gum. You can't eat gum a day for 30 years instead of playing a game that essentially is 3 puzzles and a chase scene. The game is so short, if you don't explore or listen to tapes, you can beat it in 6 minutes without glitches. And if you ask how I know this, if you speedrun this game on the mobile port like I did, because it's so short, you can beat it in about 6 minutes. At number 4 is Project Playtime. Project Playtime is cool. Boxy Boo has a dumb name, which is kinda dumber than Huggy Wuggy or Mommy Longlegs due to rhythmic or replacement sense. He's a scary toy later revealed to be a part of the Bigger Bodies initiative, which is essentially slavery but for monsters, so I kinda see why the Hour of Joy happened. I wonder if the entire game is for Playtime code to help the Bigger Bodies practice murder. Why is your character a yellow mannequin instead of a white suit gas man like the intros? Skins, I guess, but I don't know, Among Us already kind of has that, and it's like night and day in active players. I am sad that all updates to this game suck. Even after 5 years, there's still only 3 enemies, a few puzzle machines, and skills suck. Do you know why party games don't have upgrades? No matchmaking. That's why. Also, apparently the 3rd season of this sucks. It didn't really add anything, so I didn't check it out or anything, so I can't say for sure, but they removed a bunch of aspects. At number 3 is Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 is underrated. Like, this game is not as bad as Security Breach no matter what comments tell you. I'll tell you that for $30. The reason this game is considered as bad as Security Breach is because Doughy's a dumb surprise, albeit interesting character, rush concept for the story as 2 main villains and no Pianosaurus, as well as glitches, which, like, aren't that big of a deal compared to Security Breach. It's not like it's a map and this game had, like, a notoriously high scope, because it's, like, the biggest game in the franchise or something. And personally, for me, there should have been more puzzles. That's my biggest problem with this game. It still looks good. The Yarnaby is a great idea, although spontaneously erupts in flames due to metal chains, I guess. The other animal boss kind of sucks, but Harley Sawyer's an epic-looking villain that should have been the main villain. But Doughy isn't bad for being a twist villain, I guess. It kind of makes sense since he blames you for all the deaths as you were with Poppy, but that doesn't entirely make sense. The final boss not only looks cool, but his set piece is pretty cool. I don't love the gameplay that much, but it's fine. And the prototype is actually a problem as he almost kills you. And Huggy coming back is crazy. I wish Pianosaurus mattered a bit more, like he had his own section or minigame. Still a weak chapter, but not as bad as people say. The Nightmare Critters were the worst decision they ever could have made. They suck. I hate them. At number 2 is Poppy Playtime Chapter 2. I don't think this game is that high quality compared to number 1, but I don't know. Chapter 3 has a huge contrast. You probably already knew it was number 1, so it's not like a spoiler to say it if you didn't order of elimination this ranking. Sequel to the original, which, while a little bit derivative, is better. Kind of warranting the $10 price tag. The game would probably be liked more if there weren't the NFTs beforehand. The whole game can be boiled down to do 3 side quests, survive another chase scene, kill the enemy unknowingly, cliffhanger 2. I like how every chapter has an original tape beforehand that always has a lot of effort in them, and they always kind of spoil the villain, so that's why this is better than Chapter 4. The lore that Poppy isn't Stella Graber is kind of dumb as the same voice actor. Musical memory is basic for the most part, but challenging enough. Bunzo's stupid as a design, though. It's just rip-off Spring Bonnie, but it looks much worse. Whack-a-Lucky is Whack-a-Mole, but in the dark, so probably harder. And Red Light, Green Light has parkour now, and it's really easy. PGA is generally slow, so just take your time. Before the chase scene, Mommy jump scares you in a decent surprise attack, and I like how hide-and-seek actually has some hide-and-seek. Despite Mommy Longlegs being generally a bad villain from, like, a character standpoint, she does a really good job here in being, like, spooky and just a better threat than Huggy Wuggy, just for, you know, being a threat that isn't just run forward. The actual chase scene is split into 4 parts, making it more chaotic, and I like how there's some hiding instead of just escaping. Prototype is kind of a garbage intro character, since all he does in this chapter is drag Mommy off screen and her death. I guess it was interesting how her final words teased him, and he technically was mentioned in Chapter 1, but I don't know. Having the experiment number of a tape in Chapter 1 you thought was someone else doesn't really matter that much. The green hand is kind of a cool mechanic. The Scrap Toy Island mentioned in the brown tape would make a good sequel, by the way. I hope they do that. At number 1, as you already know, is Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. Chapter 5 is cooked because they aren't beating this masterpiece. Chapter 3 not only has a good villain that is probably the scariest of them all, has a crusher segment at the very start, and has better minigames before the final boss. Nightmare Huggy is very scary to see, and portrays a nightmare better than FNAF, since nightmares don't mean the cooler looking versions. I don't know if I would say the nightmares exactly look cooler, but I mean, they got like spikes and rips, that's about it. Miss Light is another don't look away enemy, but her section is done better than most due to blinking lights and puzzles. The critters make a tense, although short, experience, and Dog Day is not only scary, as it implies that Catnap tortures him, and actually scary and a bit grotesque due to a bunch of critters possessing him and chasing you. Finally, the final boss is an epic homage to the survival defense genre. I wouldn't say FNAF, as it doesn't mimic any game specifically, and it's difficult. Not only is the chapter good gameplay-wise, it's good story-wise, as in tapes. Catnap was saved by the prototype. You actually hear the prototype speak in a tape, and Miss Light had to kill and eat her sisters to stay alive, which is kind of more interesting than her character otherwise. The Hour of Joy was actually cool to see, since it's an actual event instead of just an 8-bit version or mentioned. Plus, it's the creepiest of the chapters. Unfortunately, Chapter 5 is going to have a hard time topping this one. And that's it for ranking every game. I'm going to be ranking every monsters after this segment because this is too short of a video otherwise. So, at number 22 is AI. Cappy was originally going to be at the bottom before I realized I forgot the AI enemy from Poppy Playtime Forever. Quick Google search, and it turns out the evil AI from Poppy Playtime Forever is named AI. I know he has a discount Whack-a-Wuggy boss fight, but he's the worst for name, design, and character alone. At number 21 is Cadby. These next two are about the same. They're just mascots for the first chapter. They look cool, but I like BoogieBot's design more, so. At number 20, with the best character of Chapter 1 being BoogieBot. That's right, it's BoogieBot. I'm a little angry he wasn't a giant death machine in Chapter 2, but just a fun guy. His voice acting's about the same as Cadby, where I don't remember it. I'm pretty sure it was unintelligible, so yeah. At number 19, barely unsurpassing the Nightmare Critters, Candy Cat. Candy Cat had the funniest voice lines in Chapter 2 because her sounding at the crazy end actually makes sense and isn't just a basic scare / sense of unease. The reason Nightmare Critters are better, not just for gameplay, I guess, is that the Candy Cat is so unpopular that if you look up her name, a Peppa Pig character appears first. At number 18 is the Nightmare Critters, and they're in your head. They literally publicly released that the Nightmare Critters were an afterthought for Chapter 4. They're variants of the Smiling Critters, but less fun, more spooky. The names are Garden of Ban levels of stupid. Baba Shots had a kind of cool fight, but I cannot put these any higher. I'm sorry. Next up is Brawn the Dinosaur. Brawn the Dinosaur isn't my favorite poster toy of Chapter 1, but he was kind of creepy in Chapter 1's trailer, cool mechanic in Chapter 2, and is probably the spookiest video in the YouTube Poppy vids. Plus, he's a vegetarian and a Brachiosaurus. That's some deep research to be that accurate. At 17 is Bunzo the Bunny. Honestly, when they killed Bunzo in an ARG comic, I didn't care for one reason. His game in Chapter 2 is dumb and kind of annoying, and his design sucks. It's a bad precedent for the games, as the others are pretty good for the most part. So this as an intro to the minigames of Chapter 2 is bad. Who the hell would play Simon Says, the toy banging a trumpet right above your head? At least it's kind of an interesting segment at the end, where, you gotta, click certain buttons that's, falling apart. That's cool, I guess. At 16 is the Smiling Critters, except Catnap and Dog Day. The Smiling Critters are okay, I guess. I like their names, voice acting, and designs, unlike the bottom one. Well, actually, they were supposed to be the bottom, till I realized AI, Cappy, and BoogieBot exist. They probably wouldn't be this high if it wasn't for the tiny critter segment part of Chapter 3, which I never actually played, but from videos, it looks surprisingly stressful. Although it's a short segment, so probably not that bad. I don't know. I do think that the intro to Chapter 3 was cool, though. Not that good or anything, it's not realistic, I'd say, but it's cool. At 15 is PJ Pugapillar. PJ Pugapillar is an okay finale to the minigames. Content creators who play the game make him sound way scarier than he is. It's pitter-patter, I guess, but if you take your time, he won't catch you as he moves slower the closer you are for some reason. He immediately jump scares you if you move while the lights are on, which logistically makes no sense. Did he teleport first jump scare? His design's pretty fun, probably the best design in Chapter 2. The end of the red light, green light sucks, though. At number 14 is the Mini Huggies. They have easily the best minigame in Chapter 2. Sure, it's just a simple grind session for 2 minutes, but for the most part, it's high quality. It's probably frustrating. I didn't play much of Chapter 2 on mobile due to glitches. Fun design, I guess. For some reason, it reminds me of the red monkeys from Toy Story. I guess it kind of works. At number 13 is You Love Him, You Hate Him, it's Boxy Boo. Boxy Boo is a pretty good introduction to Project Playtime. His jumping mechanic's cool, although he's kind of a basic monster design. Maybe if they make him look more like a clown or something, I don't know. Next up, at number 12, is Yarnaby. Yarnaby was one of the first teasers for Chapter 4 as the name leak. He was the best part of the trailers. All it really boils down to is a glitchy at-launch stealth segment and a chase scene in the game, but I don't know. Stealth segments are unique for Poppy Playtime, or new for Poppy Playtime, so I guess that warrants his dumb death, where he just spontaneously combusts. I like the idea of him just being a lion, not some sort of vindictive, evil monster. Next up, at number 11, and just evading the top 10, is Miss Delight. Miss Delight is a pretty good minigame villain for Chapter 3. I find the Weeping Angels mechanic kind of dumb in most games, but her segment's kind of cool. The end does beat it for claustrophobia and even more clones to look at, but I don't know, this boss fight's still cool for, the flashing lights. It sucks that her most interesting thing is in a tape, where it reveals she's a cannibal. Otherwise, she's just Mommy Longlegs, but less of an overall threat, and way less screen time. While I thought Mommy Longlegs was going to be at number 10, barely, I actually thought of one character I like a little bit less than her. That's right, it's Poppy Playtime! Poppy Playtime is a waste of a character design. Maybe if her concept, it, would have worked if she never talked and turned into a villain in Chapter 3. Instead of being, a wild card where she either does nothing or screws you over for the sake of killing the prototype. Hopefully she's not bad in Chapter 5, but she's mainly just a waste of time. Don't know how I've never noticed this, but she has the exact same design and personality of Circus Baby. Just worse. She isn't, cold and then turns into a villain at the very end of the game. She's, okay, then a villain, then she's just fine, I guess, then a villain again, then, oh, who knows, for Chapter 5. At number 9, somehow, is Mommy Longlegs. The worst main villain of a chapter, still at least kind of interesting of an idea of, what if Mr. Fantastic was evil, but in a campy, stereotypical way? Her lines kind of make me roll my eyes or ignore them, but she had a way better finale than Huggy Wuggy and kinda doughy for the build-up, music, and execution, all being, good. At number 8, for, the list, is Nightmare Huggy. I actually forgot his existence in this ranking, as he doesn't do much, but I guess he's a cool scare. Cool looking. But I'm just wondering if he's, in your bed. Better flash your light to check. At number 7 is Doughy the Doughman. Doughy the Doughman was revealed in a Chapter 4 name leak, and I thought the names weren't real. Maybe Yarnaby, but Doughy the Doughman sounds like Garden of Banban incarnated into the ultimate form. Far more than the Nightmare Critters, by the way. I guess it's kind of a part of his idea of being silly. It made him being a villain extremely obvious due to it being a horror game. If you're a silly character in a horror game, you're going to turn into a monster. His voice acting's cool and his lore's a bit interesting. I hate how he sidelined the Doctor, though. He would have made a great final boss. How dare you? At number 6 is Huggy Wuggy. Huggy is, fine. He works as a basic antagonist in Chapter 1. I don't think he's that cool of a character other than a memorable design and memorable chase scene. Maybe he'd be a little higher if he had more screen time. It was cool to see him in the Chapter 4 cliffhanger instead of the prototype bomb, I guess. But, I don't know. He didn't appear in, 3 different chapters. At number 5 is Dog Day. Dog Day was one of the best parts of Chapter 3. Simply for being one of the only kinda disturbing parts of the game. Him mentioning he gets eaten out little by little is pretty spooky, but then actually showing his body get taken apart is one of the most non-mascot horror things the series has ever done. The chase scene is generally stressful, even if easier than Huggy. This dude stole the Critters show in this segment. If he appears in Chapter 5, I don't think I'll love it, given his gameplay wasn't that interesting. But I think it'll be fun nonetheless. At number 4 is Kissy Missy. Kissy Missy is simpler than most characters mentioned, but she has one thing that none of them do. Simplicity. I don't have to wait for her dialogue to end in a mandatory cutscene like Poppy, as she doesn't talk, she's just a cool NPC character, basically. When she's in a chapter, I just generally like it more. Chapter 4 was decent, but easily kinda good, due to Kissy Missy. She saves your life at the end. Absolute cinema and her arm falling off, but you survive anyway. Simple, but very likable. Best introduction in the series for Chapter 2, by the way. Next up, at number 3, is the Doctor. Or Dr. Sawyer, because if I just say the Doctor, then I could be talking about Doctor Who. Dr. Sawyer is easily the best part of Project Playtime, and probably has the best voice acting in the franchise. While Doughy is a fine, true villain, I probably would have liked Chapter 4 more if he was the only villain, since all he really does is just a lion chase, saw minigame, worst mini-boss ever, then he has a kinda clunky boss fight. Hopefully he comes back in Chapter 5, as he had a lot more potential than his execution. And at number 2, between Catnap and Prototype if you couldn't tell, is the Prototype. Or Experiment 1006 if you want to be a little nerd. The Prototype had a bit of a rocky start in Chapter 2 as a spooky extra to the villain's death. And technically did appear in Chapter 1, but, like, I don't know. It was kind of cheap. I don't know. However, in Chapter 3, they not only give him a creepy, switchety mimic voice, but Catnap kind of hypes him up. In Chapter 4, he has spider legs now, and he's an actual threat, posing to be Ollie in Chapter 3, basically making him the second twist villain. It generally makes a pretty tense ending until his role as main villain for Chapter 5. The mystique around what he actually looks like is the only thing I can't wait to see in Chapter 5. And maybe the ending, I don't know. And at number 1 is obviously Catnap. Catnap is easily the creepiest villain of the franchise. His wide open mouth and his wide eyes is a creepy synergy. He is a threat throughout a good amount of Chapter 3, even if it's mainly in shadows or the start and finale. If Huggy Wuggy was like a main villain of a later chapter than the first, maybe it would have been like Catnap, I don't know. Nightmare Catnap is counted as the same, as he is even less of a character than Nightmare Wuggy, as he doesn't even have a gameplay segment. He's just spooky looking a bit. His final boss is actually difficult, and he makes the prototype look creepier by referring to him as a god. If he didn't mention him as a god, I don't know if I would have put prototype at number 2, so that's how you know Catnap is the number 1. Plus, he had a pretty good intro to the whole chapter. I'm not counting Chapter 5 characters in this list, but if I did, Lily Lovebraids would be at the bottom. We already have a purple main villain. We already have a stretchy main villain. The prototype should be the main villain of this game. This is a waste of character and a waste of time. Why do we need Lily Lovebraids? Anyway, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and that's the list of every Poppy Playtime game and every Poppy Playtime monster. And I'll leave a timestamp in the video in case you care about Pianosaurus, which I just realized I should have given him a segment. But to be fair, he wasn't a part of gameplay. He was a part of a cutscene just to show Dowie is like a strong character. Which is insane to do that as an intro to a character that you don't want people to know is the final boss. In conclusion, that's the end of this video. For what I'll work on next, maybe I'll rank every Marvel movie, or rank every Friday the 13th movie, although I don't have much thoughts on those. Or do a predictions list of Poppy Playtime Chapter 5, or just a predictions, like, what the game will be like. I mean, I probably won't do that given they're all inaccurate, but I don't know. See ya.